Hey guys, C-Dub and J.C. here. We're going to talk a little bit about this Batman vs. Superman film.
This new blockbuster coming out, Batman vs. Superman, is sure to be a major hit at the box office. Already projected at least $350 million worldwide, and I would venture to guess probably a little bit north of that number.
Yeah, it's really cool to finally see the DC universe come to life in feature films. Justice League movie, Batman solo movie with Ben Affleck, a Wonder Woman movie, a Flash movie, Aquaman movie. There's a lot of big plans coming up for DC, man.
It's really cool to see DC finally step it up and try to contend with Marvel. The cinematic universe that they've established is a powerhouse, as we've seen with all those releases.
And it's about time that we have Superman and Batman together in a feature film. It was also interesting to me that they're not releasing this in the summer, the blockbuster season.
Yeah, I think at this point, though, the superhero movies have such a built-in following that they can really release them any time of year. Bank on those big numbers. A lot of people coming out in droves to see these movies, young and old. I think it's really, really awesome that apparently this movie is going to incorporate some of the death and return of Superman story arc from the comics back in the 90s. That was a huge stepping stone for a lot of people to transition into becoming comic book fans, myself included.
And there's also some incorporation from the Frank Miller graphic novel. We see the bat suit that looks very similar to the one in the comic book being worn by Ben Affleck. And another element to this movie, having Zack Snyder direct it. Big fan of his work, including 300 and Watchmen. So I think we kind of know what we're in store for here as far as the action goes, C-Dub.
Agreed. Zack Snyder has that certain grit to his movies, and I think it's going to be refreshing to see, after all these kind of comic book silly and not comic book serious Marvel films, to see a more visceral take on Batman versus Superman. Batman's always had those dark undertones, but Superman not really as much. Now, I have a friend who went to see a early screening of Batman versus Superman, and without giving away any spoilers, a couple of the points that he made were that Ben Affleck did a fantastic job, as did Henry Cavill as Superman, but as I predicted in our preview of Batman vs. Superman, Eisenberg as Lex Luthor was not so great.
We were both kind of like, that guy is Lex Luthor, come on. Honestly, yeah, we could have gone with a more badass Lex Luthor.
It seems like Jesse Eisenberg's take on Lex Luthor wasn't quite as sociopathic and was a little bit more psychotic, manic, kind of wacky, perhaps, than many people would like their Lex Luthor to be. Either way, it's gonna be a major blockbuster. Already people are lining up and getting ready to go out to the theaters to watch it.
They have that new thing that the founder of Napster was actually pushing, where you can buy a $150 converter and you would be able to pay $50 the day the movie comes out in the theater for a one-time only viewing of whatever you wanted to watch. This is one of the few movies I would even consider doing that with, even though that technology is not available yet. And most directors have been highly critical of it. You're gonna go see the movie in the theater opening day, or you're just gonna wait till maybe the crowds die down?
Yeah, most likely if I do go check it out, it'll be maybe about a week or so after release, as if I needed any excuse to go gorge myself on an extra large popcorn. This one is certainly a great one. I know it's probably going to be pretty busy out there for the first week or so. This is really highly anticipated by a lot of people. I'm wondering how much of this film incorporates Gotham and Metropolis, if we see any kind of shifts in location, perhaps, where exactly this all takes place. So it's going to be really cool to see how DC incorporates all of their lore into this movie.
I think they will probably split up the time between the cities. Metropolis seems to be a focus of this one, especially with Doomsday. He pretty much destroys everything in his path, so much like Man of Steel, they'll probably travel around around to quite a few locations. So we have the introduction of all these new DC characters. Which one, C-Dub, are you looking forward to seeing in the movie?
I have to say, I've always been a fan of the Flash. I know that he apparently will serve some role in this movie and in the upcoming Justice League and DC Universe films. The Flash has always been an interesting character with the supersonic speed and time travel abilities. So that's going to be really cool to see how that comes into play, either in this movie or down the line.
And finally, the big question for a lot of people, especially gamers out there, C-Dub. When will they make a good Superman game? Perhaps a good Justice League game? Will the release of this Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice film and all these other DC comic-based movies, is that going to lead to more video games based on these superheroes? Because we really only had a few quality superhero games in the history of modern gaming, and that includes the Arkham trilogy. Those were fantastic. All we've really had is Mortal Kombat vs. DC Comics, the fighting style games like Injustice. So kind of looking forward to a Superman game, because it's been really forever since we've had a great Superman game. The one for Xbox 360 was complete garbage.
And of course, the notorious Superman 64. Boy, that was a steaming pile of dookie. One of the worst games on the system. However, one game that I'd like to mention that I thought was really, really good, that could maybe fit in a similar vein with the Justice League cast of characters. The Marvel Ultimate Alliance games were great. A lot of fun to get together with 3 of your buddies and play those multiplayer. Really fun beat 'em up action with certain RPG and leveling up elements to each superhero. A lot of characters to unlock and choose. So I think that could be something good in that same style for the Justice League, perhaps in the future. I'm really hoping that we see a great Superman game, like you said. It would be great to be able to fly around Metropolis as Superman in a similar fashion to how you did gliding around Gotham with Batman.
Maybe they'll even throw us a bone and pair them up in the same game. That would be epic, man. I mean, if you were able to switch between the two characters, go from flying around Metropolis to gliding around Gotham City and kind of doing missions that are interwoven in the storyline, that, that's a possibility, but I highly doubt it in the near future at least. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to here in this DC universe in the upcoming slate of films.
A lot of people have been speculating that this superhero genre of films, that the bubble has got to burst at some point, but it's showing no signs of slowing down with Deadpool and the Avengers, Captain America, Batman. All these movies have been doing huge numbers. JC, do you think the bubble is going to burst before the scheduled list of films that Marvel and DC have announced actually comes to fruition, or do you think this is going to keep going strong?
I kind of view it as there's two separate bubbles. There's the DC bubble, which is just starting to rise, and then we have the Marvel bubble, which, in my opinion, is about to burst. I think we've reached the critical peak of all these Iron Man and Captain America and Avenger movies. I'm not sure how much deeper they can go. I know there's certain characters I would love to see in a movie like The Punisher. I'm sure the market for teenagers and younger kids is still going to be huge for all of these movies and all the merchandise too. As long as they're making money, man, I think the cycle continues. The big question of our podcast episode here, C-Dub, for real, man, who would win in a duel to the death between Batman and Superman?
Well, as we know, Bruce Wayne has all of that high-tech gear to protect him from death. However, there's only one way to kill Superman, and that's with kryptonite. So despite the fact that apparently Batman will be wielding a gun, which is, I believe, the first time we've seen that in a movie, I don't think he would be able to take down Superman, perhaps only incapacitate him. But if you had to give me a choice between the two as far as which I would rather see win, I'm always gonna pick Batman. I'm definitely a Batman guy.
Fully agree with you there. Batman guy as well here, but I think Superman has the edge because he's pretty much a god on earth with that superpower. So yeah, let's take a look at this movie, see what we think. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, we've been sleeping on her, man. I mean, she plays a huge role in the DC universe. and all these other villains that we have yet to hear about. They'll be making debuts as well. That'll be something to look forward to. Thanks everyone for joining us here. Make sure to subscribe, leave us a comment, and tell us what you thought about the movie and what your thoughts are in general about all of these upcoming DC Universe films. For C-Dub, I'm J.C. We'll see you at the movies.